We're late, we're 7:01.
New clock, can't see it.
We've got a quorum even though we're missing 2 members tonight. So, first item of business is to adopt the meeting agenda.
So motion.
Second.
All right, any discussion, all in favor, say aye. All right. Approval of previous meeting minutes. Our secretary that's not here would have had those, so we will catch those up on our next meeting. Public input.
Hi there, my name's David, Get Inspired Flight. We're a business at the airport. And first of all, I'd like to really thank the airport and the authority in the county for maintaining the grass on the east side of the runway. I know that we've had some mower issues recently and it's been difficult to use, but we really depend on it and enjoy it, and a lot of other pilots do. So thank you very much for doing that. You're putting out that effort, and I'm sure that cost that goes behind it. It's pretty cool.
Remember, that is not an approved and authorized runway.
Understood. It's a grass
And it's
area.
maintained as we can.
Understood.
So there is no guarantees that it will be maintained on an ongoing basis. We try to do so, but.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair, and that's another reason to say thank you, because I know that, we know that you don't have to, but a lot of the tailwheel pilots really appreciate having it. It's part of what makes Pickens County Airport. So that's awesome. Get Inspired Flight did have something we wanted to address to bring to the airport in the hopes of improvement, though. The area in front of Joe Aircraft and Get Inspired Flight is a pretty narrow, congested area. And it turns out it's not actually designated as a taxiway. There's no taxiway line there. And so we've had jets and other large aircraft come through trying to get to the fuel pumps. And this actually came to a head the other day. There was actually an incident. 2 aircraft collided. I was in our plane with our student, just getting ready for engine start, when another aircraft came from the South Square hangars, came straight across and wanted to go to the fuel pump and push forward to the point where his plane hit our plane. So we had not started yet. I got out, put my hand between the aircraft, and said, I can't move my plane without damaging your plane and damaging my plane. So we separated everything, and that was fine, but that really brought to a head that this is a congested place. Joe Aircraft has cars there all the time that need to come and go for his business, has airplanes pull up. If there's an airplane in that hangar, airplane pulls up in front of the hangar. It really isn't well suited for a pass-through. If I were to compare to a controlled airport, I'd call it a non-movement area. Or to compare it to a grocery store, I'd call it to the parking spaces. You don't really want to cut across parking spaces. You want to go up and down the lane lines. You want to go on a taxiway where the aircraft are meant to move. And so we also don't like to just complain. It occurred to us as we were looking at the issue, there are tie-downs running from north to south, from essentially in front of the fuel pumps on toward the south to just about in front of Joe Aircraft. And there's, what is that, a dozen or so? 3 of those, the northernmost 3, kind of block access to the fuel pump, which means it's difficult to get there. This person coming out of the south hangars could have turned onto the taxiway, gone over, come and gotten to the fuel pump, like anyone coming off the ramp or coming from the A, B, C, D hangars down there having to get on a taxiway to do it. But the idea of coming in and turning around is a little bit tight. So those 3 tie-downs were essentially closed, possibly relocated to the south end of the 3 tie-downs where there's a taxiway line that just stops and ends. It isn't supposed to be a continuous through taxiway. That would provide more room around the fuel pumps for aircraft to come in, turn, fuel, and then have it out and leave. In addition, like I said, we've had a jet come through and try and negotiate his way through there because it's confusing. There aren't effective markings. There are taxiway end markings that can be painted here that indicate this isn't going any farther. You're coming here for a couple of tie-downs or for these tie-downs, that's fine, but this is not a throughway. Similarly, coming off of the taxiway directly toward the fuel pumps, the taxi line just sort of ends. And so having some markings indicating that you don't want to use this part as a throughway. This is where aircraft park and where a couple of businesses are trying to in and out their airplanes and cars and so on. Probably would help that a lot and prevent the kind of confusion that, like I said, actually led to an incident, an actual FAA-defined incident. So we love to, help any way we can, and wanted to suggest that as a possible solution to something that we've seen come up and just get more and more challenging as time's gone on.
Can I ask Phil to respond to this, because my understanding is that is an aircraft movement area.
It is.
Has historically been.
But I will say, so as we go forward, there is a FAA, a new FAA desire, I think it's a rule, but they now, due to runway incursions, so some bad things happen some places, so then they make a blanket change to things, and into us, it's not necessarily a positive or logical thing, but it is something that they're gonna make us deal with, especially as they give us money for some of these bigger projects down the road. So they no longer want to see direct access from an apron area out to the runway. So if you think about our two stub taxiways that go out kind of in front of the terminal, one's down kind of your direction and one's kind of down toward the more in line with the end of the terminal. So coming from the ramp straight out, they don't want to see that anymore. So as we're doing the ramp project, apron expansion, and all that, what they want to see is that you have to leave the apron area, get on the parallel taxiway for a short, and then connect over. So you would almost take our stub taxiway, the one to the south, and slide it down enough that it's in the middle of the grass island, so you have to make a jog. And then we have to do the same thing with the other. Once we start getting into that, in this apron expansion, we're gonna have to kind of redelineate circulation there because of that. So there are some things that are coming on the horizon that effectively have us dealing with that. That will all be shared, discussed, the authority make a decision on it, and then that can be shared out. But that's in the coming months. It won't necessarily be in this apron expansion project, but there will be elements of that, strings attached to that money that we'll have to commit to for future projects that will have that in. When we do that, the way the circulation is now will change, and I think there's some of that.
Then there will be more circulation through the area.
It will make us do things that we, a little less efficient. At the point that we're less efficient and we have the new things we're going to talk about here, like the apron expansion and all that, we'd probably do that so we kind of try to get some of that, especially transient stuff, to be more down, more to the north, more in the existing terminal and new terminal area. So that's all going to come up. They're pushing that, and so we're going to be kind of having to demonstrate our ideas on that to then get approval and share it back and drill that anyway over the next 6 months.
But the fuel farm is gonna remain where it is.
Fuel
We're not
farms
moving
remain
the
where it
fuel
is.
farm.
And there's some things that we talked about in the terminal committee about kind of the access in there as we can, that will be helpful to that. That helps that situation some too, and makes it more intuitive. So some of the things where we remark and we do other things, we're gonna be forced to do some stuff that we probably wouldn't have done intuitively. But as we're visiting that, it gives us a chance to look at the circulation, and with the new terminal, the transient related to that and what's parked out there in front of that and how that may come up circulation. So effectively on that, you're gonna be visiting that stuff whether we want to or not because of those new rules in the next few months. And so out of that, it's a chance to globally kind of visit what works best just for existing users, base customers, as well as intuitive for the transient folks so they don't wander off and get.
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Due to recent changes to jet traffic that's coming in on a every 2-week basis now, and if they bring the large jet, we have to put them in a place that's not going to hamper other things. So effective the end of this month, there will be no tie down in front of your hangar, and there will be no parking from there to the end of Ron Arnold's old hangar. You'll have to park on the grass or behind the hangar. It's got to be clean, so when I taxi a jet that way, to put him on the end and turn him facing to the west or east, he can shut down and stay there. So I don't want any traffic, any pallets, any cars, any trucks, any equipment down through there, so I can get a big jet down there for a reason, without having to say, hey, can you move your car? Hey, can you move your airplane? So it's going to be a flow area, and it has to stay clean. You want to weigh in, Al? That makes sense.
Well, I was gonna say the same thing. We ought to just take all those spaces out
Yep.
and let him have whatever he wants, because evidently Pickens County is willing to give him anything he wants. And y'all know it.
We're going to take that one numbered spot up.
Yep.
There's
I'm
only
just
one.
tired of it. We're almost getting to where the airport is a hostile environment. And I don't know who's gonna control it. Is the airport authority gonna control it? I asked Randy today if he would control it. He said it wasn't his job to do it.
I said I was gonna bring it up to the board
And you said it
tonight
was not your
about
job,
how we were
Randy.
gonna handle
You
it.
said it was not your job, and I've got,
I said I was
witnesses
gonna
that said
bring it up to the,
and I asked you,
Okay.
and I did ask you, and you said, no, I need to bring it to them,
I wanna
because
bring
you're not
it
gonna do it.
tonight to see, get their opinion on which way we wanna go with it.
Exactly.
Okay,
He's
then
been,
let's wait for that to happen.
and if you wanna wait, I'll sit here and wait for something to happen.
Outstanding.
So David, I'll make a comment on it. As an operator of a fairly large twin based at the airport, you take away my ability to taxi through there, it's near impossible for me to operate that airplane without the benefit of having somebody come tow me or walk to my hangar, get a golf cart and push it and pull it out. That's an egress area that is access for the fuel pumps. And personally, I don't think the problem existed until you had a tie down in front of that hangar and you had all of your equipment out there. I'll be honest, I've operated at that airport for about 10 years now. I didn't have a problem until your hangar and your operation was there.
Thank you for that input. I'm sorry to hear that. We should, I suppose, have never been assigned that tie-down, and I had no idea. So we've been
I
in
agree with
space
that.
labeled number 38, thinking that we're within space labeled 38. And so, yeah, if they need to go away,
It is. We're taking all the cones, all the barrels, ropes up and painting over the number.
that makes
Go away.
sense. That makes sense. And I'll check later to see where I can park, and that'll be great. But we're trying to exist within what we've been told. So thank you very much for the input. And gosh, I wish we'd known earlier. We would have said,
Okay.
paint it and get rid of it and put us across the way somewhere else, and that'd be fine. So I'm really
But
glad.
remember, the airport is operated for the benefit of multiple aircraft owners, multiple business owners, not just yours.
Oh,
So we've now
absolutely.
come to a situation where it's come to a head and it'll get addressed.
And we're fixing to add 24 more aircraft into the other 24 T hangars. So the traffic from people that are not familiar with our airport needs to be, A, clearly marked and designated, so we're gonna have a good asphalt remarking. And that will remain an open path for larger twins and other things that can't just move around or get between. So that way, if somebody's parking in the train, back it up, put the tail on the grass, and, or put it in your hangar, back it up in there, and it'll be all right. That way it's out of the way. Because we never know, a lot of times, when a jet is gonna land, or a King Air, or whatever. And it's like, oh, he's landing, so now we gotta figure out a place to put it. The new client from Miami that's coming in every 2 weeks and staying for 2 weeks. They have 2 jets. One is a smaller one is very large. And the large one we're gonna have to put down in that turnoff to leave it there so it's out of the way for the construction and everything else that's going on.
Randy,
Yes, sir.
if you're talking about the area there in front of the maintenance hangar,
Not the.
because that area is compromised on the ramp itself.
Right.
We're creating FOD over there already. That's a ramp upgrade area that we've
Sure.
had on the CIP already.
Yes.
So just be careful if that's your operation area for that jet.
Yeah, we're gonna
because
put the
it's-
smaller
become
engine
a
on
problem.
that side and the big jet on in front of hangar
Okay.
A1.
That's fine.
Is that gonna be near me?
No, we'll put the smaller, we're gonna fill up all the tie downs in between the H1 through H7. Fill those tie downs up with the broke aircraft that hardly ever move. And then we're gonna keep a clear spot up on hangar A1, so we can put the bigger jets up there to turn around without having to worry about smaller traffic. We're getting close to filling up our tie downs.
We are. We're running out of space. David, one question for you.
Yes.
There's been a problem with water egress into the maintenance hangar next to yours.
Mhm.
One of the requirements of your building that hangar was to get gutters on it.
Mhm.
I know you're in the process of building.
Yeah.
Are you close to that? Are you close to getting that taken care of? Because it is negatively impacting the business next to you.
Pretty close, yes. And we actually were looking at all of the flooding going on, and water was just running off of the ramp. So we did have some, of course, coming off of the roof.
But remember, they've had some flooding problems they've tried to take care of already.
Mhm.
The water has increased tremendously with what's coming off that rooftop. So.
That's not what I saw when I was looking at the range, standing there in the deluge. We absolutely do plan to have gutters. We're moving toward gutters as quickly as we can. We understand that that's a requirement, and we're happy with it.
Yeah, that's my question, was timing. Approximately how long?
We're working as fast as we can, yeah. But the water that does come off of the roof, goes straight down to the west and is not what is backing up along the Joe Aircraft front of the hangar and even along the side. We've been working to improve the swale between the two so that it won't do anything, because you certainly don't want water running against the foundation.
There wasn't drainage
So
there.
we've been working to make sure that that doesn't cause a problem by reshaping the swale of the natural ground there.
When we do that rehab on the ramp out there, we need to work on drainage a little bit, so
That
would be
is
part
a
of that
huge
project.
problem, only because the elevation of the ramp going into their hangar has drastically changed the flow. And with the dirt between his hangar and Garrett's hangar, it doesn't allow the water to flow freely between
So
the two.
between hangars, there was nothing going to be done.
Right.
So it should be exactly what was there.
It is
What
not.
you,
Should be no
what there
change.
was
Once we
it-
get gutters on there, there should be no increase in flow.
Right.
And we've had some unusual rains.
Right,
So
because what you were getting off the ramp before was what you were getting.
That's what you're getting off the ramp for.
I will say that I'm not entirely sure that's accurate. We used to have, let's say, 75 feet worth of mostly permeable space, and we would get flooded like Garrett would get flooded. When we poured our pad, we raised up above the elevation of the ramp as it stands today. And so in the recent rains, we've actually come pretty close to getting flooded ourselves. There's no way he could have survived. But instead of getting flooded ourselves and it immediately percolating off there, it does have to go to one side or the other. And our site engineer made sure that we had the proper flow to go that
If
way.
you raised your finished floor and made a dam, then the water that was coming off now has to go around.
One side or the
So
other.
it's increased,
Yes.
so you increased it.
Right, yeah, and all that was done per the site survey and the approval and the original application. So I'm sure there is more water flowing between the two. That makes sense because it's not just flooding me, it has to go somewhere. However, what we were seeing was that it was happily moving straight on out to the west. And we've in fact done a bit of work to improve that flow out on the western side, essentially the so-called back of where we're leasing, to make sure that it goes. So it is something that needs to be handled in the new ramp design.
Yeah, it was actually deep.
Oh, more? Yeah, yes, sir.
I was there. It's deep. There's a lot more than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you block the water from coming off, you're shooting it to the side. So that
Yeah.
wasn't the intent of that design.
Yeah, the dirt between hangars is not allowing it to drain.
Yeah.
It's just bank that. We gotta work on that.
What should have happened on that deal was they should have put a 12-inch grate drain all the way across his new hangar and tunneled it out, just like I did Garrett's, trying to stop that water before. We stopped about half of it.
Yeah.
So that's what should have happened on his hangar. That's what I would recommend now, is to put a big grate across there, catch that water. Don't divert it to the left and right. Catch it, put it in pipe,
Control
and
it.
send it to the back.
Yeah.
That could be something that happens as part of the new ramp design, because I'm sure the ramp is gonna come up some, because
The only
it
thing
sags
is
a
now
lot.
you're paying for it.
Exactly.
Instead of developer.
Well, that's another thing. The county should not be having to pay for that.
Agreed.
Right.
I
So-
mean, whoever built that hangar did not build it right. Nothing's right about it. About the site work, I'm in the grading business. I know everything about dirt work and piping. None of that was done right. None of it. So, just diverting it over to other people don't work. It's against the law now. In residential grading, you can't put your water on my property no matter what you do. So, if they want to pipe it, they need to put a inlet right there, a 4-foot inlet, which probably don't have enough room in there. But do an inlet, a drop inlet, pipe it out with 8-inch, 12-inch downspouts all the way to the back. And that's part of the expense that goes to that building. It should have been in the site plan. All that stuff should have been in there. And it wasn't. Or if it was, I didn't see it. So all that needs to be, the county just can't keep on taking on everybody else's burdens on money. So, and this is another part that I'm here and I'll say what I got and then I'm leaving. I'm just, I'm not trying to do it personal, man, but you think you own that place. If I could pull every pilot on that whole airport, they don't like you. They're done with it.
Public input now. Is there anybody else that has anything? Okay. All right. Committee and authority members report. Ed?
The Treasury report was emailed out to the group previously. Don't know if you guys have had a chance to review. Unfortunately, I did not print and bring copies today. Typically do. I had emailed it, so I didn't bring them. If there are any questions there, I'll certainly answer questions and address them. At the moment, everything seems to be pretty well within operating guidelines where we're supposed to be for the year. On expenses. Yeah. And, our fuel sales are looking good. We do have one operational expense that I've spoken with the commissioner, the chairman on, and that's tractor. We got a tractor that's broken down, so we've had very limited access to cutting grass. The chairman's working with us now to help us get a replacement tractor in there, so it should be taken care of, but we could see a budget hit in that regard. So just fair warning to the group that that's a potential hit coming.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Anything from the terminal committee, or we'll wait for?
I think we need to wait until we have further information. We've done our due diligence work. We've gone through the needs assessment side of things. So we've come to an understanding, not of a design, not of a floor plan, but of the space and the space requirements to meet the needs of the airport today and looking forward for several years. And as we see what participation, if any, may come from the state and/or FAA, then we'll have more to say on that front. We anticipate some movement within the next month or so, but there's no guarantee in that regard. We're waiting on the information there.
Good. Randy?
March was great. We sold a lot of Jet A, 5577. The best month we've ever had in the history of the airport was almost 9,500. But it's starting to pick back up. Our Jet A is increasing. April was a good month with over 4,600 gallons of Jet A. Air Methods is staying busy. May was closed at 4,000 gallons of Jet A, and we're getting quite a bit of civilian jet traffic. You look in March and April, it was pretty heavy. And now we've got a semi-permanent jet resident. It's the health people that were investigated, and they're flying in with either the small jet or the big one. And they're gonna come in for 2 weeks, leave, come back in 2 weeks, and start doing this on a regular basis. So we're looking at a fee schedule that's fair, but we gotta find a parking spot that doesn't interfere and take up 4 tie downs when they're parked for 2 full weeks.
Yeah.
So we're making some concessions. We got a price increase today, it went up another 10 cents, it's $3.84 to buy.
On fuel.
We're gonna have to buy by Friday. We're at 2,300 gallons in the tank right now, and it's good, it's gonna rain Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so that's gonna slow the fuel sales over the weekend. But it'll also give us opportunity, possibly on Thursday or Tuesday of next week, for the price to drop. But I don't see it because the 4th of July weekend's coming up, and traditionally, fuel prices go up for the holiday. So we're gonna try to get it in the tank before Saturday.
Oil prices are going up as well, so frankly, it's just a
Yes.
follow-on effect of that, I'm afraid.
Concrete was poured today. The builder said they're gonna skip a day and pour again on Wednesday. I talked to him about where the one restroom is gonna be, apparently the lift station and pump station. The restroom co-located in that complex is gonna be north on the F block. So,
Middle of the T's,
yeah,
of the 3 T's.
3
Middle,
T's, middle one.
by the
On the
road.
north side.
Yeah, north side by the
Closer
house.
to the road.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sure he'll address the tie-ins and how that's gonna affect.
Is that the jumbo one?
It's nothing but impressive. Thank you for Chris, the commissioner working on our tractor design. We had some folks out helping us out tremendously. We are slightly budgeted for some incidentals, and the cost of repair for that tractor is $7,300. I would like to ask, would you like for us to get from Nelson the salvage value of that tractor with a blown block?
So, what we had Kurt with the Public Works Department went down there the other day and talked to him. We are in the process of waiting, we've ordered a new one for the road department to replace one of the tractors that's there. I believe the tractor is supposed to come in early July. The actual bush hog for it is actually a couple weeks beyond that. So they're trying to balance with trying to figure out a way, but once we have that new one in place, we're gonna take the one, rather than trading it in for the new one, we're gonna take it and be able to transfer that over to the airport for you guys to have on site. because of the delay in trying to get it, because they pushed us back on taking delivery of the other one, that's why we had the crew the other day. When some of the ground was wet that affected one of their road crews from being out mowing the ditches, they came up and tried to hit it all at one time.
They did a good job.
Did a great job.
To get it down, and so we're trying to continue to do that while we're waiting to get this other one in. Once we get the new one in, we'll have one that you should actually be able to mow considerably faster, because it's a larger size mower whenever we get it up there, but we've got to wait for the new one to replace
Right.
what's there. So once the road department gets their new one, we're gonna get that other one.
And if we get salvage value, it's like Nelson Tractor will give us give us some value for that tractor. We still want to take the bush hog or finish mower off of it and bring it to the airport. But that tractor is worth money, so whatever we can get for it, we'll put that into the coffers, and that old tow vehicle, we're gonna sell it for scrap for weight and put that into the coffers as well to help balance out our
Yes,
expenses.
that should be
Yeah,
fine.
you guys did a great job, and we really
We should
appreciate
know, I mean, we're just waiting on delivery. I mean, it's not like the old days where you can drive up and say, I want that one. It's now, it takes.
We're patient, we
8 weeks
appreciate
away,
the help.
so.
Can't even do that.
We're patient.
Well, you were 1 week late with the last one we had to replace. We had traded in a week before you called. So if we'd have got that phone call 1 week earlier, we just had traded the tractor in. But it works out better, because this one's probably a little bit nicer than the one that we had traded for the past.
Oh, yeah,
one,
the
so,
John Deere, yeah.
This one should be a little bit better, but had we synced up our schedule just a little bit better, you could have predicted the blow up. We've been good. So.
Well, we'll look at this tractor, see how long it lasts, and get the guidance from the maintenance good team over there on what we need to budget for replacement on it, because it's being a used tractor, it won't last us for 10 years or whatever, probably.
Right. And this one,
we don't
it's
put
not
the
as
use
high
on it.
mileage. It's still, in the kind of use that you're gonna put on it versus what
It's
we're
gonna
putting
last a
on it,
long
hitting
time.
ditch lines and roadway. It'll have a lot longer shelf life of what it can continue. We're replacing it with one that has a different weighted front that allows them to be able to do a little bit more. So it'll give you a good amount of mow, and it should give you quite a bit of life left in it too. This isn't, I don't think you're getting one that's only gonna get you through one season. We do need to, I think that our maintenance crew wanted to kind of work with you guys as to how often they could check it out, and ensure the right fuel and things like that are going through to those things will help it last a considerable amount longer.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm good. Phil?
Awesome. We'll go in ascending order from boring to exciting. We have the semi-annual, or every 2-year airport inspection that we do with FAA and DOT. Did a great job. We were out, I think that was Reg and I that were up there and rode around with the DOT folks to make sure everything was good. We effectively had no comments back. One is update the base aircraft, which we're going to do anyway. But that is very unusual in a very good way that you don't have any comments. That's, you know, we've been to, 20 inspections this year. It's the only one that's like that. But you stay ahead of the curve, you do this, you work together, great outcome. So there is a deadline for a response letter. The response letter, which we'll send a draft of and put on your letterhead, is basically, that is correct. We don't have to do anything. So that's great. That has an impact on our funding instead of it just goes to the reputation of the airport. So that was very good. That just happened. Been talking to Green. He's working on the website. Ed sent some stuff. There's some stuff that we're going to send to help out with that. We're going to take some aerial photos Wednesday. We're waiting until the pads begin to get poured because the photos are more dramatic. So we're going to take those. It's supposed to be a sunny day, and that is the next time the pad's poured, pad number 2. From last meeting, Randy, that $13,000 in CARES money that you're about to get, before you were saying you were interested in that being allocated, but it was kind of after the meeting we talked, that being allocated for the tank work and the walkway and all that.
The tank refurb, yes.
Is that something that you want to take action on here? So you're getting $13,000 in CARES money, that's essentially free money to do something at the airport. And Randy had a grouping of things related to the tank, the kind of upgrade and walkway, some stuff that you've got to do that was a total of
13,000.
13, that right about magically. What was the number? We're getting 13. What do you need? 13.
1301.
But because you're getting it and it wasn't pre-assigned, it wasn't like a grant we get for a AWAS or something. That's floating. You need to assign it so there's definition for the county. And I don't know if you want to vote to take action on that or not, but that was something that came up after the last meeting that I had to bring up with you. If you wanted to do that, that could.
Randy, do you want to make comments about why we need to do those upgrades, or do you want me to?
I agree with what you're about to say.
Now you can say anything.
I've been after Randy for a couple of years, 3 years.
Yes.
You have to walk the
I
tanks,
agree.
to stick the tanks. We don't have any safety devices or gangway up there. It's dangerous if it's the least bit slick. I've watched Randy more than once almost come off the top of that tank. So whether that's the funding mechanism or not, that work needs to be done. Additionally, there's some paint work that needs to be done there. Keep those tanks in good operable condition for many years to come. But from a pure employee safety perspective, we need to put a walkway in over there.
And this happens to be kind of that exact amount. The money's different than it was last year, but this does kind of match up with that. So I don't know if you want to vote to use it that way or not.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion. Yes, it is.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Because when we get a new FPL, we get new hangers, we want the tanks to look new as well. Come on.
A week after the new terminal.
We $7 a gallon, but we want them to look good.
Right, exactly. Then this is what we're paying for in higher fuel prices. Then the only other stuff I got, which is big deal, the T-hanger project, so we're doing really, really good, and it's not raining, so hopefully just by mentioning that, we won't have a problem. But first pad was poured today, starts to really look dramatic. You can see what's going on second pad Wednesday. Approximately a week later, we'll get the third pad. Approximately a week later, the box hanger pad will go down. And then the erection crew will be up probably next week before we see them. I know what he's saying, I'm saying.
His trailer's there, he's already spending the night and he starts Wednesday.
And-
We hope.
and We hope. So the part similar to erosion control, so we're like, aren't they working? Like they're doing stuff, you just can't see anything vertical yet. But once the pads are down, you start to see the road. It's very dramatic, and it's a big, physically a big area project. And so especially uniquely, we don't typically have something like that by a road. You drive past all the hangars. And again, as you see that coming up, you see just how wedged, I mean, that is every inch of that space we have is utilized. So it's fantastic. So it's going great. There's rock out there, but we knew there was going to be rock out there already. So. Yeah, it's kind of rocks. If anyone needs some rocks for their garden, Dr. Andy.
A lot of rock.
So that's going really well. And again, the arc that we're on, things can change. We can get rain. We can, we've got our steel. We did great with that. The arc we're on now that we're putting out there for everybody is second half of September for the 3 T-hanger building occupancy, second half of October for the box hangers. And since we met last, the box hangers, because we did so well on that, we're able to get the bifold doors on the box hangers. That's a great thing, so they don't slide across. And so
Yeah, access to only one at a time was
Right.
not ideal, so
Right.
that's
Yeah.
extremely helpful.
Right, and so we're in a position where rather than get nothing, we do that, but we worked really hard and got that to go. So that's great. And then as Ed said on the terminal, a ton of preliminary stuff. We want to thank Ed and Wendell for the time they invested. We're in a great position with all that in our information, and over the next 30 days, we'll hear, we thought we'd have it already, from tentative allocation letters come out from FA and DOT. We need to wait a little longer. The arc is basically that we're probably 30 days away from having that, and we punch and go forward, but we've kind of already laid out some of those things. So by the time we meet next time, there'll be some exciting things to share on that. And that's it, other than I'll say, on the hangar stuff, also included there is all of our other stuff, which is a ramp expansion, adding another 80 feet of ramp in that little notch out area. Our AWAS, our beacon relocation and painting, wind sock, all that, so there's a bunch of goodies in Santa's bag coming, but we'll know more about that schedule.
That relocation, hopefully we help reduce the lightning strikes on that AWAS, and plus we get the piece of equipment that can be maintained, because we just keep getting nailed on that thing by lightning. It's amazing.
So anyway, that's a lot of really good stuff coming. So that's all.
Phil, quick question for you, and it's not your project, I
Yeah.
know. But is there any update on the sewer lift station? I know they ran into rock and had some issues back there.
So the fun,
It's
just
been a
say,
bit more of a
Chris, when
project
you
than
come
it's
out there and you're like, okay, and you have an idea of the rock we're hitting, it's all good, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a gigantic, so it's going in right now. And so they're hitting rock, because they're going much deeper, so they're hitting rock and they're piling up, and they've got a skid steer breaking it in pieces, so it's going right now. So if you go out there, you see, as you come around, you see the hangars, and then the double silt fence that kind of delineates our, and then the construction entrance, and then everything west of that is the,
Yeah, no, the
lift
lift
station.
the line across between the east and the, or the north and the south, and
and that's a huge thing. So if you think, even if we had none of the other stuff going, we just had that, that would be great. So,
So we do, within the next couple of weeks, we should know exactly when they're gonna do it, but they're gonna have to actually close down the road that goes around the horseshoe. So they're gonna have to shut it down in order to completely trench to put that in, and they're expecting to have to blast some underneath there as well, so they don't know if that's gonna be a one-day close or a one-week close. Road department, water department have all kind of came out and looked, they're gonna bring enough barrels, cones, everything, barricades to be able to try to extend to create a temporary detour through the parking right there at the edge of the horseshoe, and then block to where it prevents any kind of access to the runway or to the apron or to anything like that, to get the traffic back to the terminal on the other side, so that we can continue to have the traffic flow. Otherwise, it's gonna completely shut down access.
oh, and that's access to other private homes over there, it's not
Yeah.
just.
And it also
So
gets them
it's-
to where they can go back around, but
Yeah.
we've gotta block it to where they don't have access to just turn left and go joyride
Yeah.
the runway for a while, so that's why they were trying to make sure they have a concern. We'll know probably mid-next week when exactly they're gonna close it. They may do it faster, they're currently, the rock's what's got them to where they're not giving us an exact date.
Yeah.
But when they get to the point where they're gonna have to close it, they've already got, they're gonna actually take and just put a little coal patch to create a ramp to where you're not just jumping the curb, but you actually have a smooth access, and then whenever it's done, we can take that right back out. So that should be coming soon, but I'll be communicating with Randy before we get to that point, and we'll make sure we bring everything we can to block that off. That is coming as that project moves on.
Is that county crews doing all that?
Yeah, the
work?
detour portion of the road. So the county crews are gonna do it to detour the roadway, but it also gives access to the airport when they come through, so.
Is the rock issue causing an increase in the cost?
We haven't heard exactly yet, but I have a feeling that as much blasting as they've had to do, I think they anticipated one blast and they're up to 3 right now. And the last one was pretty major, so each time those blasting crews are coming out, you can kind of hear the cash register going in the background, but I haven't seen what that tally has moved up to. But
Phil, does that, with the lift station going in, I know that's gonna impact the new hangars, but does that impact any restroom facilities for all the other hangars on that side?
it basically works to start getting in the sewer so they can be tapped into and whoever leases land out there.
So what about the existing T hangers? So we
Right.
stubbed in for toilet facilities in a couple of the existings. Are
And
we able to tie all of that in and be able to use those facilities? Because we do have an issue right now with people having to drive down to the FBO
right.
to get access to something.
So at the point so if you think of the arc of the T hangar or the overall hangar project and that thing, even if that's got some delay, I think that'll be done by the time we finish our T hangars, and then we can make a decision on hooking up the new restrooms in the middle T and then going up there. I think I'll have to look back. I think we are putting a grinder pump up there that's not in to make the existing Ts
Yeah.
work.
And
So
the
there's
C
a little
building's
bit
where
of
we've
cost.
stubbed out for it, so.
Yeah, so there's a little bit, there's the cost of that plus the build out inside. So it may be something that would kind of, if we just remember to throw it in when we're doing the terminal committee meetings about that, might be something to just throw in those conversations, so we can kind of move that.
And A, B, and C are stubbed, so B would be good candidates in a relatively central
Pick
location.
one that's.
Yeah, B is fine, that's where I'd like to go, B.
And so it'll be able to connect across to lift station.
B or C doesn't matter to me.
These right there on the list.
And I think that the end unit on C is bigger, so if you did B, you do keep more space for yourself for
Yes.
storage and stuff like that.
And based on current usage over there, I think B disrupts less of what's happening there, so.
True.
B would be better.
Believe.
All right, anything else for Phil? Chris, anything else?
That's all I had. Get me here.
All right, we've gotten T-hanger and terminal update. Chris, you got anything on?
We, hopefully in the next 60 days we'll be funded and we'll be able to start the project. So I'm glad to hear the pump station's going in, because that was one of the things that we were hoping for. So.
Good. New business? Phil, you had the one thing that you emailed Ed and I about.
Yeah, basically, you have a, Tom who wants to look at that spot down there. He understands, I said there's a, this was right before the lift station. So basically, you can't go past the end of pavement. However, once it's in, it's up to the authority. It's not for him to decide, but the line will be in, we can locate it, and if you skip over it and connect somehow, that might work. Also told him that we've got our boxes and where that ends, and because we will then come back and say, hey, do we want to save some for parking for the back of the boxes? Do we want to do anything else in there? So there's some decisions from the airport authority, and then whatever space is left out of that, there may be a space for a hangar there. So that's one place to look at. Then on the south side, you kind of slide down as far as where that road kind of jogs and where Eric's looking up. We want you to butt up against the next thing that way, or all the way down to the end. But we've got the line again. So he's interested, so he understands all that. He would like the 30-day thing to run on the one spot that's on the north side, down at the end. For what he's looking at size-wise, he knows that the authority will slide him around as needed depending on the lift station and whatever gets decided with parking lot. So he'd like to run the clock on that, but he knows there's some decisions made and he could end up getting flipped somewhere else. But he wants to start with that so he can start looking at his.
But principally, his time of looking at development of the hangar, the design, all those things, it's a little bit agnostic to the specific location on it.
Right. So he's deciding like 60 by 60. I think you saw it, like 60 by 60 or 75 by 75. So he wants to do this because he's going to put the legwork into doing the cost and all that.
Right.
But you're exactly right. It could then morph wherever. And we talked to him about, he's got to take the whole depth of that lot. There's some meandering. So there, or the other place he has available, it is kind of the same. So he understands all that. He's got a copy of the lease. So I think he'll if that could be approved, that he's on the clock for 30 days there. And we could even make a caveat that because there's some decision making, we may move him to another spot, but it lets him start. He will know he has a spot somewhere out there.
Just as our engineer of record, keep us so that we're not leaving big gaps of dead space that can't be raised.
Absolutely.
We want to maximize
You
that
got
as
it
much
by
as we
that.
can. There's going to be some dead areas, I get it, but we want to minimize it.
We want to be, and we want to try to leave them on the end. So that's why for that lift station, we can, between where the line is and then the edge of the pond going down, there will still be some space in there. We just want the connector over the top to be a very skinny, taxiway. We could do a gravel drive or something. So we just max it out.
I will say that looking at the layout for the new terminal building and the area around it, these new T-hangers going in, not a whole lot of space left out there.
No, and you're saving that space behind, and then as we look at some of this other stuff, there's, a little bit like musical chairs. So there's, you're gonna get a couple months from now, and people are gonna look and see that there is really only one or two spaces left, and then it'll be gone, and then it'll be it.
That's a good thing. We want to lease that space. We want
Yeah.
the revenue for the county. We want the traffic on the airport.
And
It's
again,
all what it's supposed to be.
these teas are over 100 base there. Everybody knows that, but again, if you just really stop and digest that, of how methodically doing things the right way you build so that you reach 100 and you have not done a Hail Mary thing to get you methodically built and continue to demand. You have a waiting list beyond those hangars, so that's really good with some of these other amenities that are huge on the way. So
They really are.
that's good.
Did the T-hanger layout, right as you come in, from where the existing T hangars, there was that little triangle piece of dirt right there.
On the left, as you come in and you make the bend, before you get to the T's, on the,
Yeah,
on
so
the
like
left.
where you drive in now, right on the right where the curb is, is there still that little triangle piece?
Yep.
So my idea behind that was a diner, roll in one of those diner trailers and set it up and let somebody run a restaurant out of it.
My idea was put a jet there.
Well, what?
Why get more active?
I don't need a hamburger, give me the jet.
Yeah,
It's elevated, you can see the runway.
yeah.
And they did give a reason for everybody to fly in for $100 hamburgers, so.
Put a jet there that serves hamburgers.
Plus our fuel prices are low, it makes
There's no place to
make
park.
combined hamburger.
I think we ought to be drawing in food trucks once,
Be walking
one
half
Saturday a
mile.
month, 2 Saturdays a month, just
You
to
can start parking
Yes,
right here as a test.
You can burn the calories from
Prove the concept.
Put that over
I don't
on
know
the
how
parking
food
lot
trucks are
side.
regulated in Pickens County, but if it's possible, it ought to be done.
I think you just bring your smoker and set up.
All right, do we have a motion on the 30-day reservation?
I make a motion that we accept that 30-day reservation.
All right, any discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right. Discussion of alternate meeting day.
I make a motion that we move to the second Tuesday of the month rather than the first, second Monday, so that we're not in conflict with the planning authority, so it would actually be 1 day removed from where we are today.
You said second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday, yeah. Currently, we're second Monday, and I make a motion that we move to the second Tuesday instead.
We used to be on Tuesday,
Second.
didn't we? We were on Tuesday a long time.
But this would be
Is
great.
that,
This
Is
is great,
that-
that's great, we talked about, third Tuesday we have a standing meeting, but second Tuesday's great.
there's any reason you know, but
I would think of that conflict.
okay.
And then once you finish this new terminal, then
Oh,
Meet
yes.
at the airport.
we can evict you and make you do that.
Yes.
anyway,
We'll happily do that. Happily do that.
So people can enjoy the new terminal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be fine on our end, we just need to change it to calendar on our end.
All right,
Same monthly schedule, so theoretically 3 months and 1 day from now?
Correct.
Thank you.
all right. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, any other business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.